Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to set up split tunnel for remote access VPN. I'm also going to show you how to set up full tunnel. We're going to begin with split tunnel. We're doing remote access. Click next. Now type in the IP address that you want. In my case here I'm using 192.168.173.190.200. That's about 11 IP addresses. If you have ENC option here that is checked, disable that. That sometimes can cause an issue if you're using just for the client only, but if you're using for the client EMS, it might not cause an issue. Click next. Now I'm going to use pressure key when I use the certificate, so I'm going to put my pressure key here. Now we're going to be using IK version 2. You could use IK version 1, you could use IK version 2. That's basically up to you. We're going to specify the user group. So in this case here, I'm just going to choose this user group. Now, because we're using split tunnel, this VPN that we're creating is called the split one. Now, what I'd love to do is I do not want to worry about the DNS because we are not the one managing the internet traffic. In split tunnel, you're not managing the internet traffic. In full tunnel, you're managing the internet traffic. So now we're going to make sure that the split tunnel is enabled. You're okay with allowing endpoint registration. If you don't want it, you can disable it, but yeah, it's fine. Click next. Now, incoming interface, you choose your WAN interface, which is going to be what the tunnel is going to be bind to. Then your local interface, where exactly do you want to choose as your local interface? Some people would choose their LAN, some people would choose a particular VLAN as where they want it to come through. So let's say, for example, we choose streets as where I want my local interface to be. Notice my IP is 192.168.70.0. That's going to be my local address as well. So I'm going to look for an address object that is called streets. This is it here, which has the same IP address. And of course, this is what I want. So this is also going to create an interface zone. Please notice that is very important. You can choose not to create it because that's where most people have issues when they're applying the policy. So we're going to leave it as default. Click next, and then by default this gives you a review of what you've done. Click submit, and then we're going to go to the policy, to the tunnel. This is the tunnel we just created, and then we're going to edit the tunnel. We're going to make some changes. Notice that this is saying, okay, we're using what's it called, split tunnel, but it's asking us to specify the DNS. Okay, we're just going to say, okay, we're just going to point you outside, or we could just use DNS. Okay, we could point you here. We'll leave this the way it is. You could change the comment if you want. You could leave the comment the way it is. The mode, we're using IPv4, we're using range. This is what we're using. This is the DNS we're using. Notice we have the splits tunnel turned on. Now, the reason why I'm emphasizing the split tunnel on here is because the other videos and the next thing we're going to do is to use the full tunnel. So now, the next thing you're going to look at would be we already have a pressure key. We're using version 2. For me, I do not like to use a pair ID. Some people like to create a pair ID that you can use. I don't really like it, so it's fine. Then the next thing, it's your choice, basically. So any pair ID works for me, but for more security, sometimes you might want to specify a pair ID that you just type into your FortiClient browser, application. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I always like to just reduce it to 2 because my FortiClient basically uses 2. Some people will leave it as default and just change the first 2 and just leave the other one. It will still work, but in my own case, I have never tried it that way. I've seen it working, so I would not say it doesn't work. So I'm going to use AES 256. Of course, going to use something strong. You could use 384, you could use 512. I'm going to use the second one, AES 256. You could use 256, you could use 512 if you want. You could use SHA-1. I would not use SHA-1 in my scenario, so let's just use 256. Now, your diffie element, you could use 14, you could use 20, you could use 21, you could use multiple. So basically, whatever numbers you're using here must match what you have set up in your what was it called, on your FortiClient, or what you will set up on your FortiClient. Now, this is my key lifetime. You could change your key lifetime. Don't use the default if you don't want to use the default. This is just more of a day. It's 6400 seconds. It's actually I believe is 12 hours ago or so. So let me see what that is. 86400 seconds in hours is actually 24 hours. So if I want to make that half of the hour, let's say my VPN is supposed to run 8 hours a day, I could just say, okay, this would be what I want to use. Sorry, this is 8 hours. Oh, let's say you don't want to run beyond 10 hours. You can do this. Some people will use 12 hours. So for 12 hours, you basically would have something like this. So basically, it's more of in hours, in seconds. So you could set those things in. Now, I have set my phase 1. I've set my DH group to be 20. I've changed. Sorry, this is the wrong number. I don't know how I put in that number. This is 12 hours. So now, once you're done with your phase 1, I'm going to go to phase 2, and my phase 2 looks perfect from here, but I need to change the encryption as well. So here on my phase 2, the same thing, the comment, you can always add comments. You can say phase 2 remote tunnel. Sometimes you might have this set to named by default, where you will have named some name will look like this, but in my scenario I like to use range. I like to use subnets. So basically I like to use the 0 subnets, which means 0.0.0.0 space 0.0.0.0. So that gives me all the 0. The same thing I use for my local, I can use for my remote. You can specify, you can be specific with your subnet range. So let's say, for example, like I was using 192.168.78.0. My subnet mask was 255.255.255.0. That was what I was using for my local. And let's say my remote is something I want to specify. I could do that as well, but for me, I take the easy way. I just use the all zeros in this scenario. So now the same thing I'm going to do for phase 2. Do whatever works for you in this option. Now in phase 2, I'm still going to use something good. Okay, so let's use this and replay detection. You can leave it enable. PFS, you can leave it enable. Those had more as a stronger security to your phase 2. Sometimes you can disable it if you want. Some people like to disable it, some people like to enable it. It makes no difference to me. I'm going to leave my DH group here. Interestingly, I can't really click anymore on my PC. Give me a moment. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to leave it as 14. Now, auto negotiates, I like to always have it on. So it says when enable phase 2 negotiation will attempt will be attempted every 5 seconds until it's established. I like that, so that it would try to negotiate the tunnel on its own, I end up to come to my tunnel and start trying to restart my tunnel. Auto keep alive is also very good, which keeps your tunnel alive because it does all those are you there, are you awake, are you still there kind of thing, to make sure that it keeps it alive, keep the tunnel alive. The tunnel doesn't just go down when it's not being used. So I'm going to make sure those two are enabled, and as you can see, this is my settings. Now, one most important thing here, notice this number here matches the number we have set on my phase 1. Now, this number on phase 2, which is your key lifetime, should not be higher than your phase 1. It could be equal, but should not be higher. So we'll leave it this way, and then we're gonna go OK, and then click OK. Now notice that split tunnel is enabled. That's the most important thing. So when split tunnel is enabled, the next thing you're gonna do is to make sure that you have a WAN policy. Sorry, no, not the WAN policy. I meant to say VPN policy. That's what I meant to say, not the WAN policy, a VPN policy. Now go to policy and objects. Sometimes some people have said in some of my videos, have said that they could not see the policy, that the policy was not created by default on their own firewall. In this scenario, as you can see, mine was created by default. Now you can edit this policy, and what you can see here is that it's using zone, and because in the setup you notice the option that I said allow this to create a zone, and that's why it's using a zone. If you don't choose the zone, let's say for example, let's say we do not have this policy created. So let's say we're creating a policy by ourselves, and then we say this is a VPN splits to streets. Don't forget, we're allowing the traffic to come from the internet to the streets department. That's what we use as a local interface. If you're using LAN, that will be to LAN. So incoming interface. Now this is the tunnel name. Where is it? The tunnel name. This is the tunnel name. It says VPN splits. So remember that. If I choose VPN splits, and then I come here, I say okay, it's coming to streets. Sometimes you remember, if you're in your phase 2, you're using 192.168 or something or whatever IP you're using, specific IP, or you're using the named, it's good to specify the name or the subnets here. But if you're using 0.0.0.0, the lazy one like I've used, go ahead with all. Now, does that mean you have to use all? Does that mean you cannot be specific? You can still be specific if that is what you want, but if you're using 0, go ahead with all. So you've already made it open. Now, when I kept saying earlier that I like to specify my group, this is what I meant by that. This is where you have the group. So if you create another group, you could choose the group here. You will have the other group that is there, which this was the default group I used earlier. Now, if I don't want to have that default group, I just had an additional group. So this is a group. This is the old group that I have created in my policy. But if you want to just put both of them, yeah, it changes nothing. Go ahead and put it there. Services, I'm going to use all. Now click all. Then NAT is not needed, so we're going to turn off NAT. For your login, I like to capture all logs. You can turn it off later if you want and put it on security events, but I like to capture all logs so I can see all the traffic that is coming in and out of my VPN tunnel. So now what you then do is to click OK. Notice this, you're going to watch this. It's going to give me an error because of this. Click OK, and there we go. And then this is where most people will freak out and say, oh, why is this not working? This says node object this, blah, 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 this. Now, incoming interface was created into a zone. So because it changed it into a zone, this is what you need to choose. You need to choose a zone that the VPN tunnel created, which is this. So if I click OK now, watch this. Notice that. So that is actually very, very important. Now, one thing you see is that when they created their own policy, they used NATs in my own policy. I did not use NATs now. You're like, oh, why is it not using NAT? I don't need NATs to work. So I could remove their policy. Notice in their own policy, they use a specific range, which is this is my VPN tunnel range. Then this is what's it called? The location as a destination is going to my LAN. Which is my straight subnet. You could do that in my scenario here. I'm using all. Like I said, you can set it up either way. So then I don't need this policy. I can either delete it or just disable it. So in this scenario, I'm just going to disable. Okay, so now that is how to set up your split tunnel VPN. Now, quickly, I want to change that into a full tunnel. Now, notice this before I go into a full tunnel. Now, in my policy and objects, notice I only have one policy, and that is just this VPN zone to streets. Notice there is no other one that goes to the WAN interface. Because you're using split tunnel, it means the user will be using their own internet connection. They will not be routing internet traffic through this firewall to get to the internet. So if you want to convert a split tunnel into a full tunnel, which I've had many users do over time, to convert it into a full tunnel because they want every traffic to go through the firewall, they want to use their own, they want to be able to do many things through the firewall, want it to be inspected and stuff like that. What you then need to do is go back to your VPN policy, your VPN tunnel, I meant to say, change the, you could change the name. In this case here, I'm just going to say name. Instead of me to call it split, I'm going to call it full. Then here on IPv4 split tunnel, turn that off. That's all you need to do. Very straightforward. Turn that off. Once that is turned off, every other settings remains the same. Now, once that option is turned off, it's now a full tunnel, but it's not really a full tunnel because automatically, because you're changing, it will not create you another policy that goes to the internet. So you need to create your own policy that goes to the internet. So I could do this. I could just duplicate this particular policy here by copying, pasting it below, because I'm kind of like lazy. So here I'm going to say it's coming from my VPN full to internet. Then here I'm going to change the outgoing interface to my internet interface, which is my WAN. And then here will still remain the same, but what we'll need to do is the NAT needs to be on at this point. You need your NAT on. Notice on my LAN, I did not turn on the NAT. On the WAN, I need the NAT on. Make sure the policy is enabled when you copy policy. Everything will remain the same, and I'm just going to click on OK. So what you see is that the policy would then be created for WAN. So this is my policy that goes to my streets, and this is the policy that goes to my WAN network. Now, all you then need to do is to open FortiClient and then set up the same settings that you created. So we're going to do this, add a new connection. We're going to call this IPSEC. You're going to call this whatever name you give it. It doesn't have to match the same name. It could be anything you want it to be. Now, in this scenario, you specify your WAN IP. Whatever your WAN IP is, you specify your WAN IP. In my scenario here, I'm not going to put my public IP. Thank you. Put the pre-shared key. But in your scenario, you need to specify the WAN IP. It's very important. Put your pre-shared key. Go to the VPN settings. Remember, we're using IE version 2. Very important that you use the correct version. Then the what's it called? The phases that we're using 256. If you cannot remember, it's very okay. It's common not to remember. You could always go back to your VPN and check what exactly was set up. So here we have 384. So here we have 384, and then we have 256, 256. We have 20, and then we have 43200. I'm going to leave this the way it is. This dead pair detection is more of was like just try to make sure that if a tunnel goes down, it's able to detect it. That's what it's for. That's actually very good. Now, phase 2, we're going to go to our phase 2. We're going to edit the phase 2, and then we're going to make sure that it matches the encryption. And then we'll make sure that if we're using PFS, make sure it's checked. Replay detection, if it's enabled, make sure it's checked. Your DH group in my scenario is 14. Click on 14. Notice every other thing is the same. You can leave auto negotiate enable in this scenario. Then we're just going to click on save. That's all you need to do. That is all you need to do. Now you'll ask, but if I was setting up split tunnel, or I'm changing it from full tunnel to split tunnel, what do I do? What you need to do is go back to edit, change the name. If you do not use the name split or full, you don't really have to worry about changing the name every time. So then turn on split tunnel. The split tunnel earlier was using what's it called? Was using what's it called? A group address, which is this, so which is actually pointing to the LAN. That's all the group address was doing. So if you don't want to use this, you could just basically just point it to your LAN address. So you could just say, oh, where's my LAN address? My LAN is called streets. So that's what we were using. So turn on splits, and that's what we're doing. If you are using this particular object, you could have multiple subnets that you wanted to actually go to. So you could basically where is it again? Splits. Type it VPN_splits. Yeah, so this one here, you could basically add multiple members to it. So if you wanted to be able to route between multiple subnets, you could just add it there as well. So that's one of the things you could do with the address group. Now, once that is created, then the next thing you do is you make sure the split tunnel is enabled, the DNS is open, then click on OK. Remember, if you want to use your internal DNS, specify the internal DNS there. Now, one question that I've also had to address is, how do you use multiple DNS? So let's say I want to use my internal DNS and I want to use an external DNS together. So what do? So here I'll just go to edit, and then notice here you have this option here that says set IPv4 DNS server. So here we're just going to say set IPv4-DNS server 1. Now let's say we want to use internal DNS. Let's say our internal DNS is 10.199.186.186, and then you can set a public IP address as your your secondary DNS, IPv4 DNS server 2. You can use about 3 of them, I guess. Then this will be, let's say 8.8.8.8. Then you say next, and then you say end. So what this does is that it basically changes the DNS from just being a single DNS to two different DNSs. So notice I can only see one of them there, but I have two. So when you connect to your VPN, you will see those two DNS showing. In case this DNS goes down, you're still able to use the public DNS to reach the internet. Now, of course, in split DNS, I do not really worry about my internal DNS, but if you're using split tunnel, sorry, I mean split tunnel, I mean to say, if you're using split tunnel, make sure that this is enabled to split, and you choose the address object that matches your internal network that you've chosen, and then make sure that you click on OK. So I'm going to stop there because it's already getting too long. I hope I've been able to explain to you how to set up a split tunnel and a full tunnel. Please let me know in the comments if you want me to create a specific video. Go ahead and create a request. I would look at that and create that based on the request. Thank you so much for viewing, and have a wonderful day.